All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Before we jump into this, if it's your first time visiting this channel, I make daily gaming videos. So if you like that style of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you've been watching for a while and you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, help the channel grow, and make sure also to check out my Spotify. Link is in the description. But let's start off here with rumors that have been going around for a while now as to what the next Xbox hardware is going to be. There was a lot of fear when all of the rumors were going out about games going to PlayStation 5, and then eventually that did come true, where they did put 4 games on the PlayStation 5 and other platforms. And the question was, would Xbox continue to make hardware going forward? And that question has been answered now for a while. Sarah Bond did come out and said that they're excited to show off the future of the Xbox hardware. And one of those things that people have been speculating will be in those plans is an Xbox handheld. An Xbox handheld makes an absolute ton of sense when you think about the direction of Xbox and how they want people on their ecosystem on multiple different screens, a handheld or maybe even a hybrid. I think both of those would be a great solution. And we have some more confirmation here that Xbox is prototyping a native Xbox handheld. So this comes via Jez Corden of the Xbox 2 podcast, claiming that Xbox is working on a new native Xbox handheld, saying this: I know that Xbox have got a handheld prototypes right now. Corden soon clarifying that these are new prototypes and not the old prototypes often referred to. They say, as pointed out in the podcast, prototypes don't necessarily mean that new products are coming to the market, but Xbox pursuing a handheld isn't at all surprising. And you take a look at the handheld market over the last few years now, how it's extremely exploded, starting with the Steam Deck, and then we've seen all these other competitors with the PC handhelds. But the thing that I think is holding back these handhelds the most is just simply the UI in Windows and how cumbersome it is to actually use some of these handhelds, because it's just native Windows on those things and it doesn't make it an enjoyable experience. Xbox has a huge opportunity here to come in, release a handheld with a console UI, have it a full console experience where it's pick up and go to play your Game Pass games as well as all of the games that you do own on your Xbox account. I think there's a huge market there for that, and it would be a great move if they were to do that. And Jez Corden also later says, no, not a cloud handheld, a fully native Xbox handheld. So keep that in mind. Take that for what you will. Of course, this is all just rumors and speculation at this point, as Xbox has not officially made any sort of announcement, but people are expecting that we're going to get some sort of hardware announcement this summer at the Xbox showcase, and maybe it will be the first reveal as to what they have in store for the future of the Xbox hardware when it comes to a handheld. We've also seen that SDK, that dev kit that was recertified in Korea, nobody really knows what that is for. Maybe that is for a new handheld that is going to be coming onto the market. It just makes a ton of sense, not only from Xbox's strategy, but also from how successful things like the Nintendo Switch are in the regions that Xbox is not strong, specifically in the Asian region. So hopefully this is true. That would be something I would be getting day one if they were to release a native Xbox handheld with a console UI and have access to all of your Xbox games. People have thousands of games that they own on the Xbox ecosystem. Myself, I have tons and tons of games that I would love to be able to take with me on the go. So I hope this is something that does come true, and it just, again, makes a ton of sense. And one of the things that kind of shows where the Asian region Xbox is obviously weak on. They've done a lot of improvements this generation, however. Have to keep that in mind, especially when you see some of the games that they are getting in terms of Xbox Game Pass. One of the reasons why I think a handle will be great there to help them grow is for stuff like this that has been occurring. If you remember last week, we talked about the Inotria, the Last Song game, which is kind of a Souls-like game that developers came out. They're an Italian developer, and they came out and said that they are going to be releasing on PlayStation 5 and PC, and that they've pulled the Xbox version for now. Now, there was a bit of confusion there. They are actually going to continue to work on the Xbox version, but they're going to do it after the release of the PlayStation 5 and PC version. And they put out a much bigger post here kind of explaining what was going on. But here is the most interesting thing, and I feel like a lot of games that will have a prominence in regions where Xbox isn't strong will look at where they're going to release their games, especially if they're a smaller team with a smaller budget. They say here, The choice fell on the PlayStation 5 rather than Xbox simply because we have a relationship with our partners in Asia, which is Sega, with whom we have agreements that we want to respect as a matter of respect for them. As you may all know, the Asian market is largely dominated by PlayStation, so PS5 was the most logical choice. And I think that plays a big role when we looked at the Nintendo Direct and people were complaining about these small niche games from Japanese developers like that Monster Hunter game and the Gundam game, smaller games. I mean, the names, the IPs are prominent, but those games specifically, one was like a 3DS remake, and then you have Gundam Breaker as well. Smaller games overall, and where a lot of people are playing these games are in the Japanese, are in the Asian regions where Xbox just has no prominence there. So that's why I think it's very important for Xbox to continue to want to grow there, so things like this happen less. I don't think it really has to do with Xbox putting some games on the PlayStation 5. I think it more has to do with market shares, and they see where their players are playing these games. They will prioritize the platforms that are the most prominent in those regions. And again, with this, it's because of what they're saying here, the Asian regions, and because they're partners with Sega Asia. So Handheld could also help alleviate some of this, I think, if they were able to release hardware that people will want to buy and have tons of games that appeal to people in those regions. So I think it's just a no-brainer to release that Handheld. And now we have a little bit more update here as well about what happened with Inotria, the last song. And also, this is a game I don't think a lot of people really heard of before this popped up. I didn't even know this game was coming out. So it's not a big loss, but it is still something to keep in mind. Now, the next game here that I want to talk about is probably the biggest game of this generation. That is going to be GTA 6. There's some reports here going around, I believe from Kotaku, that GTA 6 may slip to 2026. Again, rumors, take it with a grain of salt, but it says, according to Kotaku, sources with knowledge of the game's production believe that although the internal goal at Rockstar is to release it in early 2025, a slip to 2026 is possible. They say moving the release to 2026 is reportedly currently on the table as a fallback plan if production goes awry. So this is just a report here from Kotaku. There isn't really any deep information here that you could say would say, yeah, it does look like they are going to be pushing this to 2026. You do also have Tom Henderson coming out and saying, I'm not even sure what to make of the Kotaku article on GTA 6. No info is new, and it seems to be just trying to stir the pot based on Bloomberg's reporting. And then responding here again to his own tweet saying spring 2025 is targeted and is suggested via Take-Two's earning increase in fiscal year 25. Holiday 25 is likely, though, based on past releases of Take-Two's tendency to delay. Also a reason they gave a vague 2025 date on reveal. Never say never. And a 2026 release is possible, but this just screams covering all bases and creating some online chatter based on previous reporting that already suggests a delay from spring 2025. So take this Kotaku report. I know this is being re-reported by VGC, but Kotaku put out an original report. And as Tom Anderson is saying, they're not really coming up with anything new. No new news in their report. They're just kind of taking stuff that's already out there and then trying to stir up and create some discussion on if GTA 6 is going to be delayed. Because the thing with GTA 6, no matter what comes out about this game in the news, it's going to be big. It's one of the most anticipated, if not the most anticipated game. So there will always be major discussion, major chatter online if there is a big story surrounding it. It being delayed all the way to 2026, a lot of people will be disappointed in that if that was true, but as of right now, there really is nothing new to indicate that that is going to be the case. Okay, let's jump over here. Let's talk about Days Gone Studio, which is Bend Studio, who, as we know, there was a lot of news over the last few years that came out that they wanted to make their own new game, or at least Days Gone 2 or something along those lines, but PlayStation had pushed them to go ahead and work on the remake of The Last of Us, and that wasn't something they really were too excited about. There was a huge report, I think it was like 2 years ago or something, detailing everything. I believe that was from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier who put out that report. But now we have some more information about potentially what they are going to be working on next. And it says here, Days Gone Studios' new IP is a live service game, and not too surprising that it's going to be live service. I know PlayStation has cut a bunch of live service games, especially after all of the layoffs that did occur, but they definitely need live service games in their portfolio, something to make them continuous money with the changing games industry, with the huge production costs of these games. they need some more variety in what they do release. And Ben Studios is looking like it's going to be making that live service game, saying Ben Studios' new IP is a live service game according to some newly emerged evidence. The Sony subsidiary hence appears poised to join its parent's ongoing live service foray, which is bound to put Ben Studio well outside of its comfort zone. The Oregon-based company's latest game was Days Gone, which reached the PS4 in April 2019 before making its way to PC 2 years later. And they say here that there's a listing that advertises an opening for a lead project manager, explicitly mentioning live service games thrice, both in the context of the eventual hire's everyday responsibilities and the ideal candidate's required and preferable experience. They say lead our agile strategy processes in alignment with our studio goals, the specific need of our teams, and key phases of development, pre-production, production, and live services. Hands-on game development experience in leadership roles, shipping AAA live service games, and experience redefining studios from traditional box product focused game development into live service development studios in a key leadership role. So looks like it is going to be a live service game that is going to be coming out. And it's kind of weird. It makes not that much sense. You think about PlayStation, you think about they canceled The Last of Us multiplayer, they canceled Twisted Metal, and now you have Ben Studio here who obviously would love to make a Days Gone 2, but now they're being forced to make a live service IP, and we don't know what type of live service, but maybe it's going to be something in the Days Gone world. Maybe it's going to be a zombie apocalypse live service style of game, a survival game, maybe to take on like a State of Decay or something along those lines. I could kind of see that happening there. But it's just kind of weird that they've canceled some live service games that you think people would be very interested in. Like I said, The Last of Us 1 and Twisted Metal. But now they're going to start production on a brand new live service game, which is going to be very expensive to make. And it's going to be risky as they aren't going to be guaranteed that people are going to want to play this thing for long periods of time to be able to make their money back. So we'll see what comes out of Ben Studios. I'm hoping it's something good. I'm hoping it's something that people will be excited about because PlayStation needs this. They need something other than that third-person cinematic action adventure game, and not just because people want more variety from their games, but just from the financial perspective, from what we've seen with their financial reports, absolutely, they are going to be pivoting and making changes. All right, let's talk some Resident Evil 9, because Resident Evil 9 sounds like it's going to be the biggest in the series, which could be crazy. I'm a big fan of the last three Resident Evils, the last two ones, Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 7, the first-person ones in that specific universe. I thought they were great. So I'm very excited for Resident Evil 9. It looks like it's going to be the end of this current arc of the Resident Evil games. But we have more info here saying that Dusk Golem, a Resident Evil insider, says Resident Evil 9 will be using the open world tech like in Dragon's Dogma 2. And if you've seen some videos of how interesting that tech is and just the organicness of it, that would be pretty cool. They say RE9 reportedly has the biggest budget and longest development time of any RE game to date. It's also set to be closing the chapter on the current arc of the series and will take the series in a new direction. So we may be getting an open world Resident Evil game. Now, sounds exciting at the core. I don't know how many people will really embrace that, how many people will really want it, because people, when it comes to Resident Evil or games that they've played throughout their whole lives, they like that tried and tested formula. But if they can do something here that is engaging, an open world that is engaging, where there's always things to do, there's organic happenings as you're running through the world, there's fear as you're going through it, people chasing you, and just gives you that feeling of that Resident Evil game, could be something interesting to track. And we will see eventually when they do release more on it. In fact, here is what this person says, Duscombe says on Twitter. So here's a little tidbit I'll share. Capcom often will greenlight new initiatives in threes closer together. Decent examples are RE7, RE2, and DMCV were all greenlit fairly close together to take advantage of their new RE engine. And the idea to remake RE2 inspired them to also take on RE3 and RE4 for a remake initiative. Dragon's Dogma 2 expanded RE engine functionality for open world games. The two other games building on this tech is Monster Hunter Wild and Resident Evil 9. So we'll see. Probably we'll be getting an announcement for RE9 in the next little while. Okay, let's jump over here. Let's talk about a game that Xbox is going to be working on with People Can Fly. And this is, I believe we've heard this codename before, Project Maverick. And we have a bit more information here. It says, according to a job listing, Project Maverick, people can fly Xbox publishing based on a Microsoft IP, appears to be a PvP shooter in Unreal Engine 5. They're looking for somebody with experience working with the shooter genre, experience in creating PvP maps, experience in level design, both practice and theory, and UE5 knowledge and Unreal Engine editor, full working proficiency. So that is a style of game that Project Maverick is looking like it is going to be a PvP shooter in Unreal Engine 5. And who knows what the IP is, who knows what the style of shooter really it is going to be, but we'll see. People Can Fly has made some cool stuff. I mean, you look at their shooter games, they've all been pretty good technically with great controls. You think about like the Bulletstorm games, you think about Outriders, which I thought was a pretty phenomenal looter shooter that mechanically felt very good in your hands. So they do have a lot of experience making that style of game. So I am excited to see what Project Maverick is eventually going to end up being. And finally, let's just quickly talk about this. There was the announcements for Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail releasing on July 2nd in early access, coming June 28th. They also kind of hinted that we may be seeing a Final Fantasy IX remake. It says here, Yoshida says the reason for the Final Fantasy IX references for Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail is a secret and pre-orders begin next week. This has a lot of people speculating that they are going to end up making a Final Fantasy IX. And from what we understand, at least right now, this will be a game that would be making its way over on to the Xbox platform. If this is true, if there is a Final Fantasy IX remake and it does launch onto Xbox, I'm sure at some point they got offers from PlayStation to keep it exclusive, or from maybe even Xbox to keep it exclusive. It would definitely signal a change with these remake games. And that'll be a nice thing to see, that they aren't going to be locking it over onto a singular platform. But of course, this is just hints, rumors, no official announcement yet. But we'll wait and see. Final Fantasy IX could be one of the next remakes here that Square Enix is working on and planning to bring over to modern platforms. But I will end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.